JJ McCarthy's training camp has not been perfect, but should we be worried about it? I brought Forno on to help me out for this one on the Locked On Vikings podcast.
You are Locked On Vikings, your daily Minnesota Vikings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Locked On Vikings podcast, where we're always trying to learn something new. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And thank you so much for making Locked On Vikings your first listen of the day every single day. My hashtag everydayers. I appreciate you so very much. Special treat for you. Not that special. Sorry, Tyler, but you're here a lot. A semi-regular treat. We got a camp correspondence. Tyler Fornes is here to talk to us a little bit about what he saw at Wednesday's practice. It sounded like it was a bumpy one for JJ McCarthy. I want to get into that. I've seen a lot of discussion about JJ McCarthy's mechanics, and some interesting depth chart stuff is starting to sort of solidify. And that is going to be fascinating headed into Saturday's preseason game against the Houston Texans. So Tyler, where do you want to start? Probably JJ, right?
Yeah, I think we should probably start with JJ. And
yeah,
I'm getting very annoyed. Let's just put it that way.
Oh, wait. Actually, before we start, JJ, TJ Hawkinson came back practice. What was the deal with that? He's like sort of back from his hit?
He looked fine. He was doing team stuff. He was doing 7-on-7. I think he just had hip soreness, and that was it. And
needed a day or two.
Yeah, he seems just fine. I didn't notice them really holding him back. Like Derek's on, Will Fries were rotating in and out, but I saw Hawkinson do most everything.
Excellent. With that said, let's get into the JJ thing. You were about to cook, and I cut you off. Cook, what's up? You're annoyed?
I'm just very annoyed about this perception about JJ McCarthy across the board, because he's only 22 years old. Mm-hmm. He only had like 630 reps throwing the football in college. There's going to be some bumps in the road, especially his first full training camp as the starter. There are going to be bumps. There's going to be ups. There's going to be downs. But the key thing that I wanted to look for across all my visits to training camp and everything I read, what is he doing procedurally, and is he staying consistent with his process? And if the results aren't there, I can live with that. The results will come if you utilize good process. That's just kind of the rule of thumb. And I've seen relatively good process. I've seen him be consistent with how he's utilizing his progressions on 7-on-7 and team. You can see his head jerk around like mine is and then come all the way back. You can see his mechanics have improved, even though they're not perfect. He's doing a lot of the right things, but not everything's hitting. And that's okay. We need to not treat him like, oh, this guy is Kirk Cousins and he's 35 years old and he's been in the league for 13 years. No.
Yeah. And he's going to hit every throw he intends to hit. Yeah.
He's like half a rookie, and it's okay that there are struggles. It's going to happen.
I will clarify, because I think it's okay that there are some struggles. It would not be okay if there were only struggles.
Yes.
If there were a ton of, disastrous things, but that's not what we're seeing. We're seeing him hit a lot of really interesting stuff. We're seeing him hit really nice passes, stuff over the middle, all levels of the field, even the go balls, even the long balls that we're worried about. We're seeing him hit at least enough of all of that to say, okay, he's got that in him. And then, he skies one in the night practice and Harrison Smith almost picks it off. There was an interception today that he probably threw to the wrong shoulder of Jordan Addison.
100%.
But if those are the mistakes we're talking about for like functionally a rookie, I think that bodes well for the future, even if the present isn't going to be immediately fantastic. But when did that become the requirement?
It's Vikings fans. I think this is just what our brains are conditioned to do. And even some of the beat who've been there for such a long time, they've seen so much and they've seen so much good. And then all of a sudden it just goes kerplunk. Like they've seen the Christian Ponders of the world. They saw Teddy Bridgewater's knee explode. Like I kind of get it. Like I get it from all aspects, but at the same time, he is nothing like any of those guys. And you can just see a lot of good with him. And I think you mentioned it to me during the pre-show. Emily Liker, the Star Tribune, talked about he yelled at the offensive line for not having their stuff together. Like that.
Yeah, let me find that little anecdote. It's really cute.
It's phenomenal to see a 22-year-old have that much command and that much presence in the room where he's yelling at veterans that you are not doing procedural stuff correctly. That rocks. That is kind of a good leader and a good future at the position.
So this is from Emily Liker's Wednesday camp notebook, which we were just talking about. I've been really enjoying her coverage of training camp. From this notebook, it's veteran tackle Brian O'Neill said McCarthy got on the offensive line in a huddle Wednesday for some procedural issues during team drills. The Vikings have received a few false starts as backup center Michael Juergens has taken additional reps the last 2 practices. But just another notch in Michael Juergens' belt for things that are going wrong. I just don't get it. But that, we're seeing not only the leadership, but that command. He knows what things are supposed to look like. And that might seem like a low standard, but it's not one everybody's clearing from his draft class.
Yeah.
That you have, the nuances, especially in a complicated system of the what the snap counts are supposed to be, the procedural stuff, not getting false starts and saying, hey, it's supposed to be this, get it together. That is the leadership you hope to see. But a lot of the consternation with JJ McCarthy, I think some of it comes from national media that really wants to find a negative way. I'm going to be honest. A lot of times the most militant people about this, if you grill them hard enough, you find out they're from Ohio, and I no longer respect their opinion. But the Vikings beat is pretty negative. This is not a beat that is often overwhelmingly running interference like they've been accused of, which I find pretty gross. Of having rose-colored glasses. I'm sorry. Have you heard Judd Zulgad break down a team that's failing? That man does not have rose-colored glasses. All right. That's what people like about him, is that he doesn't have rose-colored glasses. And I think a lot of the longtime Minnesota beat is very willing to point out an issue and do an eyeball emoji and say, uh-oh. I think Kevin Seifert does it all the time. The strip guys will do it if it's warranted. So I think Alec Lewis does a really good job of being nuanced, and he has said, there's been ups and downs, but it has not fallen below what a normal expectation for a second-year quarterback should be, let alone one that missed his first rookie year. But mechanically, there's a couple things that I didn't like that I still kind of see. And there's a lot of discussion about JJ McCarthy's mechanics, his release and his throwing motion and all this other stuff. From what you are seeing, how do you feel about him mechanically?
I'm relatively comfortable with where he's at. A lot of the stuff that you and I talked about over the course of his draft process and just his learning curve over the course of his Vikings career, a lot of it had to do with that swinging back leg. And it's something that was a problem at Michigan. It was a problem early on, but they really worked hard to kind of corral it. It's a lot better, but it's not perfect yet. And I think that's manifesting in some of those misses. He missed almost every fade route he threw today in individual drills.
Interesting.
The quarterbacks in those
That's
drills,
tough.
By the way, Sam Howell throws a beautiful football. If only he was good. It would be a lot of fun if he was good.
God, he'd be great if he didn't suck.
Oh, he arguably throws the best football in camp, but he's just not very good. And a lot of that has to do with his processing. But anyways, I digress back.
Well, he's throwing interceptions. He's throwing way too dangerous of passes and stuff like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. It's a lot of things. It's his slow processing. He just does not see things.
Oh,
happening.
Windows close on him.
Yeah.
Okay.
But overall, McCarthy mechanically, sometimes it's really hard to see. We got a better look today because they did red zone stuff towards the bleachers, where the last time you and I were at practice, everything was parallel. It's perpendicular again this year, so it's really annoying and hard to see some of that stuff. Where last year was great view, but I don't have any issues. I'm really excited to get the all 22 from the preseason game and break it down and kind of see what is he doing? Is he rushing some of those mechanical processes? How is it manifesting on the field? Because right now I'm comfortable with where he's at. but that doesn't mean I'm happy. I still want to continue to see growth. I still want to see him really corral that back right leg and not let it swing like he's throwing 100 miles an hour on a major league mound. If he can continue to do those things, I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah. So on the back leg swing, this has been like the chief thing that I've been talking about on this show, and you and I have talked about it a ton too.
Oh yeah.
So what I think I want to do next is I want to re-explain that problem for people who are, just joining the show, who haven't been plugged in, and sort of re-go over that whole thing. But I've sent you, while I do that, Tyler, I sent you in the private chat here on StreamYard the a clip of his preseason game last year. And I want you to just compare what you're seeing in that to what you saw today. And you let me know how much progress you see. I know my answer to that, but I want to hear yours. And we're going to do that next here on Locked On Vikings. Today's episode of Locked On Vikings is brought to you by FanDuel. It is America's #1 sports book. And it's America's #1 sports book for a reason. It is super easy to use. It's fast. They pay out right away when you win. And you can do all kinds of crazy things. You can bet any win total you want for the Minnesota Vikings as an over or under. So if you like 8.5, you like 9.5 or whatever, you can bet on that. You can also gamble on JJ McCarthy's over under passing total. It's 35.75.5 right now. So if you're with me and Tyler and you think that we should be a little more optimistic about him, you can put a little money where your mouth is. Or if you think we're stupid idiots, you can bet the under. And I believe at least you can bet the under whenever they unlock it, which should be any day now. If you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Moving on here with the Locked On Vikings podcast. Thank you so much for making Locked On Vikings your first listen of the day. Hey, when you are done here, you can check out a couple things that I've done at patreon.com/LukeBrownNFL. I broke down some Jeff Okudah, some of the same tape that Tyler, you watched for your stuff there. And also one on Donovan Jackson's camp. I got a lot of camp clips from a benefactor and broke down Donovan Jackson in them. So we can see a little bit about how his camp is going. You can find that at patreon.com/LukeBrownNFL. But let me give you the spiel on the hip rotation thing. So think about your body as a towel that you kind of spin up, and it creates the tension. And then if you're going to smack it, right? That is the same mechanical thing that gives a football power, that torque, that tension. So when you turn your shoulders and your hips and you build up that torque, you want all that tension to transfer into the ball. If your hips keep rotating beyond the throw, that means some of that energy is still in your hips, right? And it didn't make it to the ball. That's functionally what you don't. And so you lose power. When you lose power, you try to make up power in other ways by being, a bullet pass Andy like JJ McCarthy is. And that was like a big thing for him in college. Everything was a zippy bullet pass because he was throwing everything super hard because he had to, because he wasn't getting everything he needed to out of his lower half. Kevin O'Connell very clearly has identified and worked on this with him because it has changed dramatically since he was in college, since his pro day. And looking at this preseason game, which is where we left off last time, it was still pretty over-rotatey. And what I've seen in camp, from just the clips that I've been able to see, it's still not 100% there. His hips are still going past that sort of perfect. You want him to basically perfectly land parallel. The way I'll describe it a lot of the times, if you had a headlight on your belt buckle, that light should shine on your target. And after you're done, and it's not, it's still going a little bit too far past. And that's a critique that I think will cause inaccuracy sometimes, especially on those fade balls that you were talking about. But it's way less than it is in that preseason game, like way less. So progress is still being made, which I am pretty excited about because I misremembered this preseason game and I thought it was a lot closer than it was. So when I saw what I saw in this camp, I was like, oh, it's just stagnated. But I think I was wrong about that. I think it hasn't stagnated and it's still very much calming down. But do you see the same thing as I do?
So this clip you sent me, dude is basically like throwing like he's Mariano Rivera in the World Series. That hip is rotating. My goodness.
Thank you to Minnesota Sports Appreciator, by the way, longtime question asker, for sending me that screen recording of it.
Major shout out. Like, it's significantly improved. It's not great, but it's much better. And
like the headlight on his belt buckle is like to the sideline. It's nasty. It's crazy.
I've mentioned this many times before. I'll never forget when Tim Tebow came out and they talked about adjusting his throwing motion. And we all know Tim
You got to
Tebow's
stop
career didn't go
jumping
very well.
first. That's step
Yeah.
one.
But they said it takes like 10,000 reps to make a habit with something like this.
Yeah.
And that's the course of you have to adjust and rep that specific thing 10,000 times. Has McCarthy gotten to 10,000 reps? Maybe. Consider it depends on when he really started throwing with his recovery of the torn meniscus, but it's possible he hasn't gotten there yet. And it's going to take time. It wouldn't shock me if he doesn't have it fully down until like 2026 or maybe even 27. Something like this is really hard to drill out of you, especially because McCarthy probably hasn't really worked on this at all until he got to Kevin O'Connell. Like there's a real
He
chance
very
that,
clearly had not.
yeah, that you're talking about potentially like 15 years of over rotating your hips, and that's how you lived. That's
being a baseball player, by the way,
yeah,
all the time, right? Like playing multiple sports, I guess hockey too.
It's an insanely difficult thing to try and fix. So the fact that we've seen a lot of growth and improvement there, I'm not really concerned. And honestly, I'm a little bit surprised that there is that level of concern. But I think that comes from something you talked about on your show yesterday, Luke, where people don't follow this in the same way that you and I do. And sometimes they just turn on the TV on Sundays and that's their Vikings and that's how they love it. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And I think when people come and they see something like that and it's new to them, they may feel like it's worse than it is, but it's not. It's significantly improved, but it's like turning a D into a B paper. Now we got to turn that into an A, and that's the next step forward.
I think that's a good way to put it. Yeah. And I think for like you and I, Tyler, we should be about this time of year catering to the people that just kind of turn things on Sundays. And they've been golfing all summer and they're like, oh, there's a preseason game. How are the Vikings looking? Like those are the people that have questions I think we can answer really, really well. And hopefully we can be a good place to come to for that information. Before we move on, because there's some other interesting stuff depth chart wise that I want to ask you about. Was there anything else about JJ McCarthy today or in general that you've been noticing that you want to get off your chest?
I do think the fact that the defense has kind of calmed down a little bit on like the exotic stuff and the blitzes has allowed him to do more and more. But I just don't think we can get enough from where McCarthy is at until we see him on Sundays, because he's doing this without Christian Darrisaw, Will Fries. They're both rotating in, but they're not full go yet. And then Jefferson's been out. Hawkinson came back today. He looked fine, but he's been out. We're just not going to get a full picture until probably the second game, because the first game is Monday night at Soldier Field and weird things happen in Chicago. So
yeah, well, we won't have Addison until week 4.
Yeah. And honestly, I'm not too concerned about it because they pretty much whipped the 49ers and Texans without Addison and without Hawkinson. Now you add Hawkinson and Jordan Mason. I'm not really concerned about missing Addison. It'll suck. It would be great to have him, but I'm not hitting a panic button. I'm not saying, oh, we need to go sign Amari Cooper right now. You do that if you don't like Lucky Jackson, if you don't like Thayer Thomas, Tim Jones, Rondale Moore. If you think all those guys stink, then you go sign Amari Cooper. But
I think you have to think Jalen Naylor stinks. I think if you think you only have one good receiver, you want a second one, you go do that. But they do not think that Jalen Naylor stinks. And you tell me, how has Jalen Naylor looked? Because it feels like he's had a reasonable camp.
Yeah, he's been fine. One of the things with like wide receivers, sometimes if I don't notice you, that's a good thing because it doesn't mean anything's bad. He did miss sometimes with the ones today, and they ran Jordan Addison, Lucky Jackson, and Thayer Thomas for a little bit. And then they rotated in Rondale Moore, and Jalen Naylor did a lot more stuff with the twos. I don't think that's anything against Naylor. I think they just wanted to give more guys opportunities with the ones to kind of see, okay, where are we at with some of these guys, and can we trust them with McCarthy when the season starts?
And that helps you on the roster bubble for sure, right? Who's the sixth guy, and if he has to come in, that couldn't make that decision. I know McCardell likes to do that in camp. He will have Thayer Thomas types play with the ones sometimes, and it never ends up actually meaning anything. You're looking for that kind of consistency. Boy, this Lucky Jackson thing though. I feel like this kind of snuck up on us.
It's real. Like,
is it real? Like, is he playing really well, or is it just that he is like, have you noticed anything different with him, or is it just that he's getting reps with the ones or more with the twos?
I think it's more about a consistency thing, and I think he's doing all the right things when he needs to do them. He's running crisp routes. He's catching when it's thrown to him. He's doing everything right. And in the XFL with the DC Defenders, he was the deep ball specialist. With the Edmonton Elks in Canada, you do a little bit of everything. He was more of like the slot back, so the waggle, all those guys that are running forward at the line of scrimmage. He's not the outside guy. He was running forward, and that gives you an inherent advantage, but you're still running a lot of the same route concepts they run in America. You're still running dagger, you're still running mills, all that kind of stuff. So
go up the field and turn. Yeah, like there's only so much geometry at its fundamental level.
He just looks like everything's starting to click with him. Because remember, in 23, he did get to play in a couple games. I think he only had one catch at the end of that season, but they did like him enough to have him in that spot. And every time I've seen him on the field with the ones, he doesn't look out of place. And I think that's the biggest thing. He's not like, oh my gosh, I'm seeing a lot of these wow catches, but he looks like he belongs. And I think that is a huge thing for him to make the roster, let alone be that wide receiver 4 coming out of camp.
Yeah, this wide receiver group is fascinating. And I think right now it's a lot more muddled than we kind of thought. And there are names involved that we didn't expect, and there are names not involved that we did expect. But the preseason is going to dictate a lot of this. There's another really interesting battle that I would like for you to speak on. We were talking about pre-show. That is going to be kind of the same thing, where we're talking about who wins the second team job, third team jobs, and do those third team jobs make the team and all that. And the preseason is going to have a lot of influence in this. So we can kind of preview the preseason games a little bit by examining those position battles. That'll be next on Locked On Vikings. This episode is brought to you by Yahoo Fantasy. It is that time of year. And right now, everything I'm doing in fantasy football is going to be through the Yahoo Fantasy Football app. It allows for so much flexibility for the right kind of scoring league. The infamous Hell League, if you may have heard of that, that is hosted on Yahoo Fantasy because Yahoo is one of the only apps that'll let you do that. Ridiculous things. You can do whatever you want. Get creative. But whether you are a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league, everybody is playing on Yahoo Fantasy. They're dropping all kinds of new features as well, but just like the basic bare bones of the app work really well, fast, easy to use, and easy to put in a last-second waiver claim without worrying about it taking forever to load and letting you do that in a streamlined way. To celebrate 28 years of fantasy football greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days throughout August. To kick it off, they just dropped Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues, which is a killer way to play fantasy football on Yahoo, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there's just one team left standing. With the season around the corner, now's the time to get the league together and give this new mode a try. If you're more into the classics, you can still play in head-to-head private leagues or join a public league. Stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now at yahoofantasy.com/lockedonnfl. Moving on with the Locked On Vikings podcast. The Vikings quietly released a 2025 depth chart. I don't think I saw them say it's just up on their website now, or was there an article?
There's an article. I mean,
there is. Okay.
It's just the PR guys that do it. Every PR team does it across the league. It's the official, unofficial depth chart.
The official, unofficial depth chart.
It's a baseline of where things are.
Please play football.
I know.
Okay. The official, unofficial depth chart, on it, not a ton of surprises. It does list Donovan Jackson first team, in case you were still wondering that if Blake Brando would split more reps with him when Will Fries is fully healthy or anything like that. Probably not. Otherwise, everything is more or less as we've sort of observed it. However, there's this Zamiah Vaughn thing. So let's start there. Zamiah Vaughn he's an undrafted rookie out of Utah. He's gotten a lot of press for looking pretty good, making some plays, challenging like Dwight McGlothern for his spot on the depth chart. Maybe both of those guys make it and you end up cutting some veteran like Tavier Thomas or something like that. Is that real, or did he get two lucky interceptions and everybody's overreacting?
I don't know because so it's really weird that he was listed so far down.
Yeah, dead
On the depth
last
chart.
on that official unofficial
Mhm.
depth chart, that doesn't like he's been with the twos a bunch, right? Like that
Yeah.
doesn't. Did a PR guy just not know? Just like
Um,
not catch that yet and
so
update their spreadsheet from where it was in May?
I pulled it up. The way they kind of have the backups listed is everybody's separated by a semicolon. They don't have they only have like one or spot, and it's at tight end 3 with Ben Urasek and the Italian stallion Giovanni Ricci. So the fact that
Wait, is Nick
Vaughn,
Van Nett not on there?
he's the fourth string tight end with Bryson Nesbitt.
Oh Christ! All right.
Well, I mean, he's been in camp one day, so
He's a 10-year vet.
I know.
You probably could have put him on the third team.
I know. But I did find it interesting. I thought Vaughn, the little bit I'd seen, worked with the twos. He looked good. He worked really well. It's odd to me because he's behind Ambry Thomas. The other cornerback spot is Okuda, Reddy Stewart, and Keenan Carver as your backups, where he is with Mekhi Blackman, Dwight McGlothern, and Ambry Thomas. So I'm not reading a whole lot into it. I think we're going to see more from him over the course of the preseason because I think he's got it. I think he's going to make this team. He looks like an NFL player. He moves like an NFL player. He's staying in the hip pocket of these guys, and he's making plays on the ball. And it's not a mistake that like guys like Alec Lewis have been like, he's showing something. And this happened in rookie camp. It happened in OTAs. It happened in mandatory mini camp. And now it's happening in training camp. That's too much of a trend line to ignore. So
kind of reminds me of Holton Hill. Rookie year Holton Hill going, wait a minute, this guy might be a guy. And then he ends up actually starting week 1. I mean, disastrously. I don't know if we would want Zamiah Vaughn starting week 1, but all the more that would also probably be a disaster. It's a perfect comp.
Vaughn's only been a cornerback for like 3 years or something. He was a high school quarterback and he went to Utah as a quarterback. So it's weird that he's a 23-year-old project, but considering he's played the position for 3 years with that body type, I think it's worth trying. But that was the biggest standout to me with the depth chart stuff, that he was last. I figured he'd at least be on like the Reddy Stewart, Keenan Garber line ahead of just both of those guys.
And maybe that'll change after the preseason game. If we see him start the preseason game or get in after like 2 drives after, Jeff Okuda steps off the field or whoever plays, that will probably tell us more than this official, unofficial depth chart, which is not created by the coaches. It's created by the PR staff and their best guess for like what they can figure out. Let's go elsewhere in the defense. I will believe the Zamiah Vaughn hype because you have instructed me to. I will say about all of these, Lucky Jackson, Zamiah Vaughn, all of these kind of depth chart risers, you have a bad preseason game, it will undo all this goodwill. Like the preseason majorly matters to those people to maintain that hold. But if they're playing genuinely well in camp, it stands to reason that they'll play genuinely well in the preseason too. But you don't get to have a bad day. And you can really calcify your spot there by going and showing it against a team that doesn't actually care about your well-being. Okay. Speaking of depth chart risers, Levi Drake Rodriguez has been mixing in with the ones. He's been basically exclusively with the twos and appears to have kicked Taki Taimani out of his spot. Is that true?
I think so. I saw Taki Taimani working a lot with the threes, and they were doing 7-on-7 on the left field. On the right field, they were doing a 1-on-1s, and he's just moving different. Like he looks like he's playing at the FCS again, as far as he's moving like an NFL tackle should, where he looked like he was just moving really, really well against those FCS guys. He's looking a lot closer to what that looked like. And I think that's a really, really good thing. He's got more of an NFL body. He because those FCS rooms, like the facilities, like my high school was better than the facility that he was at. It's pretty wild
for sure.
Think about it. But he looks like a guy they used last year as a redshirt year. No offense to Taki Taimani, but he's a real one-trick pony. And if you're a one-trick pony on a defensive line, you better be really, really, really good at that trick. And I think the work that they put in with Levi Drake Rodriguez to be that backup nose tackle has really paid off. And I do think there's some pass rush juice to unlock. He's never going to be Dexter Lawrence, but if you can get
he's been in the backfield some. Like
Yeah.
I've seen some of those, like the narrative of camp being that there's somebody in the backfield all the time. That guy's been Levi Drake Rodriguez sometimes. That guy's been Dallas Turner sometimes, like talk about like second team. That guy's been Jalen Redmond some of the time. And also Gabe Murphy, who went down with an injury but did come back.
Yeah, it looked like he got like a knee to like the thigh or something. Because he was down for like 2 minutes. He got up,
Charlie Horse,
and he did like a little shuffle, and then he was just back practicing. So I think he's just fine.
Need a little bit of some of that secret sauce. So like this is going to be a fascinating one because I remember last year. I remember when Taki Taimani kind of blew up, and everybody's saying, "Oh wow, this guy's going to make a team." And we're talking about him the way we're talking about like Zamaya Vaughn, right? But then Levi Drake Rodriguez was like also cooking, like he was playing really well last preseason, and it's just that Jalen Redmond and Taki Taimani just like you couldn't deny them. But if those guys hadn't done what they did in the preseason, Levi Drake Rodriguez probably would have gotten a lot more run. So I wonder if this is here to stay. Again, the preseason can be huge. All of this downward momentum for Taki Taimani. Look, get in the backfield once or twice against the Texans, and you're probably doing pretty good. And you can kind of find your way to prove, hey, no, I still deserve that roster spot you gave to me because he is status quo. He's the incumbent. So all you got to do is sort of justify it rather than overturn a decision that had been made before, which is what Levi Drake has to do. But it sounds like he is doing it. But you mentioned like the different styles for the uninitiated. What is the one trick that Taki Taimani does, and what makes Levi Drake Rodriguez like distinct from that?
Taki Taimani is a run stuffing nose tackle, and there is a huge value to that in the National Football League, especially guys that can two gap. Two gap means you are locked in with one offensive lineman, and you can either go left or you can go right. And when you can two gap and you can do those things, it allows everybody else to have different responsibilities, and it just makes things a lot easier for the defense. Levi Drake Rodriguez can pass rush like a 3 technique, and he showed a lot with the run game. And last year, I thought that they were going to move him to nose tackle. Kind of felt like it, and I got laughed at. I was right, and I'm going to victory lap that. But I think that there's something there from all facets with him. And I believe was the vision from Kwesi when they took him in the 7th round.
Yeah. It does. He was like too small to be a nose, right? That was like the whole deal. And that was part of why he didn't get into bigger schools, if I remember.
He was like 305, I think.
Right. Which that's crazy. But for a nose, that's not great.
No, you want to be like 320.
Yeah, at least. So that is going to be one of the things I watch really closely is that those battles. I still think that there are things on the second team offensive line that are going to get guys cut that maybe we don't expect because it's going really badly on that second team offensive line. And I think eventually somebody is playing their way off the team and might get beat out by one of these undrafted guys. I'm going to be watching that in the preseason game. And tomorrow I'll probably talk through all of this in a little bit more detail, like what to watch in the preseason game, kind of go down the roster and see what battles are interesting there. Tyler, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your camp report, our correspondent.
My pleasure.
What do you got coming out?
Real Forno show tonight. We're going to be breaking down the all the things to watch from the Texans game, kind of doing a similar thing to what you're going to do for tomorrow's show.
I'm stealing my follow. I get it.
Yeah, pretty much. But I think it'll be good to listen to two perspectives because we're going to talk about different things. We're going to have different viewpoints, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
I do have a scorcher for you.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. You said you want to. Yeah. Lay it on me.
I think Dante Fleming's a dude. I don't know how good he can be, and I don't think he necessarily makes a team, but I think this is a guy that could have like an Adam Thielen track where he's a practice squatter for a year or two, and then he makes the roster, and then maybe he could be something. This dude, every time I see him, he is making really good plays, tracking the ball deep down the field. Finished practice today with that beautiful ball from Max Brosmer on a fade. Tracked it perfectly, kept his feet in bounds. Had a couple last week when I was at practice. there's something with this guy that just feels like an NFL player. And I'm really going to keep an eye on him the rest of the year. I think he sticks around for a while.
The next Alexander Hollins. You heard it here first. Tyler Fornes at The Real Forno on various social media, Real Forno Show. Go check him out. We will talk tomorrow. And as always, Skol.